Buongiorno a tutti, benvenuti alla live. Oggi analizzeremo il mazzo Commander che verrà spoilerato dalla Wizard, dal loro canale ufficiale. Siamo in attesa che si colleghino. E quindi questo è il secondo mazzo che viene spoilerato. Ieri è stato spoilerato quello degli Sliver, dove sono uscite delle chicche veramente niente male. E piccola info, al momento le decklist sono soltanto scritte, quindi io non ho ancora fatto, diciamo, quello che è la visual, ecco. E inoltre non ho ancora aggiornato la galleria perché sono stato veramente impegnato. Comunque al più presto, appena ci sarà dopo lo spoiler completo, quindi della galleria del master, mi metterò a fare anche le liste di mazzi. Liste di mazzi che saranno visibili anche su Instagram. Quindi non dimenticate di seguire su Instagram e la maggior parte degli spoiler li pubblichiamo lì, anzi quasi tutti. E il resto degli spoiler vengono pubblicati su, quindi sono visibili. Eh, l'unica pecca, ecco, di questo set è che non è stato tradotto in italiano, ovvero qualche carta è stata tradotta, avranno iniziato a tradurla, poi dopo evidentemente non voleva. Quindi niente, c'è soltanto in inglese, sarà disponibile. E che dire, siamo quasi pronti. Da quanto è venuto fuori dal tweet, dovrebbero incominciare alle 7 esattamente. E che dire, è un set pieno di tante sorprese. Adesso io non so di preciso se spoileranno durante la diretta altre carte del set. Solo, diciamo, la live l'avevano impostato solo per il commander, ecco, nuovo del Planeswalker. Però non dico niente, magari ci sono anche la possibilità di vedere anche altre carte che non sono state menzionate, soprattutto perché lo spoiler completo ancora non c'è. Quindi vediamo di farci sorprendere da questi news e da questi spoiler che finora non sono andati per niente male, ecco, tanto su cui lavorare, tanto materiale per i commander, di Pauper è uscito qualcosina, sicuramente come sempre Wizard quando butterà fuori lo spoiler completo avremo indubbiamente tutte quante, diciamo che le comuni se le tengono sempre per ultimo. Quindi avremo tutte quanti gli spoiler, tutte quante le carte comuni che restano. Ecco. Mancano ancora 7 minuti. Eh, dalla loro galleria. Vediamo se hanno messo diver. Vediamo. Ah, galleria. Ah, hanno messo un po' di slide. Probabilmente avrà messo. Ecco. Eh, devo dire che hanno dato una bella mano, ecco, ai giocatori di slider perché veramente c'è di tutto e non è per niente male, ecco. Cosa molto molto importante che ho visto nelle carte, ecco, la maggior parte delle carte sono impostate per girare sui vostri tramutanti, quindi non su tutti. Quindi se si gioca, se qualcun altro nel vostro tavolo gioca tramutanti, diciamo la maggior parte dei potenziamenti sono per i vostri sliver e quindi diciamo avete la possibilità, ecco, di costruire un mazzo o basato solo sul vostro sliver, ecco. Ad esempio vedete il bonus kite sliver, dice le creature tramutanti che avete hanno doppio attacco, quindi che avete, che controllate. Quindi diciamo questo è quanto, ecco. Eh, Ci sono anche carte comunque che fanno parte proprio della parte di commander dei mazzi, quindi ristampe che vengono soltanto stampate nei mazzi, tipo Crisi Nova, una vratta che viene usata molto, ecco, in commander. Distruggiamo tutte le creature o distruggiamo tutti gli artefatti di incantesimo, che è molto versatile. Poi che dire, diversi power up un po' per tutti i mutanti, abbiamo cautela, più uno, questo dice quando una creatura entra nel campo di battaglia, sprona una creatura, no, quando questa creatura entra nel campo di battaglia, sprona una creatura controllata da un avversario, che è forte, molto forte. C'è il piano di Littara, che è impostato sulle creature comunque. Quando entra in campo di battaglia scegli un tipo di creatura. Titano è il tipo di creatura scelto in aggiunta sugli altri tipi. Quando il titano entra nel campo di battaglia o attacca, possiamo pescare una carta per ogni altra creatura che controlliamo che condivide un tipo di creatura con esso. Lo facciamo, scartiamo una carta. Ci dà molto fuel, ecco, per le nostre pescate, ecco. Diffusion Sliver da protezione da magie o abilità contro altri avversari, counterandole a meno che si paghi. Ehm, Poi questa è doppia, non ho capito come mai. Quindi questo dice Gallery Sliver, le creature tramutanti che controlliamo hanno volare. Mentre da qui Winged Slaver dice ah, ecco perché questo include tutti quanti i tramutanti, tutti quanti hanno volare. È diciamo un fix. Sì, sì, sì. I tramutanti non possono essere bloccati, tranne che da tramutanti. Quando un tramutante infligge danno da combattimento a un giocatore, il suo controllore pesca una carta. Abbiamo Windfall, vediamo, forse ci siamo. Sì, ci siamo. Siamo in live. Adesso funziona. Come mai? Mancano 2 minuti, siamo quasi. E stiamo guardando appunto i tramutanti. Comunque quando iniziano a sentire. Questo è uno dei tramutanti che eravamo curiosi di conoscere, l'Azotep Slider. Le creature tramutanti che controlli hanno affliggere 2. Quando il tramutante non pedina, controlli e muori, ammassi Slider 2. Quindi ammassiamo, sta diventando quasi qualcosa di obbligatorio per me. I mutanti hanno 2 rigenera questo permanente. Infir Crypt Sliver. Tappa rigenera un bersaglio. Le creature tra mutanti e controlli hanno legame vitale. Insomma, diciamo che non sono andati male. Scelta, ecco, carte nuove per i tramutanti. ogni qualvolta questa creatura infligge danno al combattimento, il giocatore esiglia di una carta del tuo, puoi giocare quella carta in questo modo. Quindi qualsiasi. Cos'altro? Ah, ci siamo, ci siamo, ci siamo.
Hello and welcome to Weekly MTG. I'm your host, Blake Rasmussen, and today we were going to have Corey Bowen on the show to talk about being a lead designer on some of the Commander decks, but we got someone so much better. Corey's fine. Corey did some good work. But we got Commodore Guff because it's his deck, and for all the work that Corey did, Commodore Guff, you just kind of rewrote it, right?
I just changed the whole deck to my own image.
Before we get started, so we're going to talk about the Planeswalker Party deck, headed by Commodore Guff. We are going to reveal some preview cards from the main set, that dual lands thing under there, and I got a little tiny bit of news. Before we get to that, I do want to address the elephant in the room, the thing that I know the internet chat will be talking about.
Hanno detto che praticamente adesso stanno per liberarlo.
I don't know, allergic reaction, probably, but it's weird. And so I'm going to squint on my right side for all I think you're over here. Mm-hmm. But anyway, moving on, let's talk about a little bit of news and then get into all of the previews. So on the news front, this morning, Arena had an update for Alchemy. We had a couple of updates. Crucius was changed from a 3-3 into a 3-1. Makes it a little easier to kill there. And then Fable of the Mirror Breaker was banned. So check out MTG Arena Alchemy for those changes. Otherwise, let's dive into these previews, Commodore. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
E niente, hanno detto che dopo nell'articolo della pagina principale della Wizard ci sarà questo articolo per il ban di Explorer, mi pare, o comunque di Arena, dopo guarderemo.
You know, I have a huge library. I rewrote the end of the Phyrexian invasion that one time. Very powerful wizard, one of the 9 titans. Mm-hmm. You heard it here first, maybe not first, but no, I'm a very powerful planeswalker. I've been in retirement for quite a long time, and I decided to become a game designer.
It's, you know, everyone's got to have a second career, a second act, mm-hmm. From all-powerful planeswalker to a game designer. Why not?
Yeah, I love game design. It's cool.
All right. So before we get to your deck, we do have some cards from the main deck to show off, which are the Cycle of Dual Lands.
Oh,
so
yes.
anyone who plays Commander, these are going to look familiar, and they are favorites. So let's see. Rejuvenating Spring, Spectator Seating, Training Center, Undergrowth Stadium, and Vault of Champions, all at rare, all with the enemy-colored dual land. So how important was it to get these into this set?
Oh, I think this was super important. I mean, I'm a planeswalker, right? I go around.
Direi necessaria, perché comunque si parla di Commander.
Power and access to different colors of mana, and these are among my favorite leyline locations to establish.
Yeah, why not? They're great places.
Especially because I have so many opponents.
Right? Always. You never see Commodore Guff with just one opponent. Mm-mm. So, but when you want to get fancy, you've got some special versions of these too, don't you?
Oh, I've got very special versions of these.
Here are the foil etched, or like these. The colors really pop on the border.
Yeah. I think we can go fancier.
I think we can go fancier. So we've got the borderless versions with
queste sì, ottimo.
Now that's some Guff ley lines right there.
Ottimo lavoro, veramente ottimo lavoro.
Many times I love a good show on Kylem. That's where the spectator seating and all these other places I think are. I've been so many places, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So these are going to be found in the main set of Commander Masters, but most of what we're going to talk about today is your Planeswalker deck, Planeswalker Party.
Comunque saranno disponibili nel set principale, ecco, quindi non esclusivamente nei Commander deck.
Look at that.
Oh, there's me. I'm so beautiful, so handsome.
So talk a little bit about your abilities and how they fit into what the deck is trying to do.
Yes, yes. So I'm Commodore Guff, a great wizard, a powerful planeswalker of the 9 Titans, and I thought it'd be really cool to be the head of a deck with all these planeswalkers and powerful other wizards, where of course I'm the strongest and most powerful and coolest and most handsome wizard of them all.
Of course.
So I do many things to benefit planeswalkers. The first thing I do, I'm spreading loyalty counters to my other planeswalkers. Every turn I get another loyalty. It's a small little token appreciation for following me, Commodore Guff, into battle. A little bit of loyalty so they can use their more powerful abilities a little more often. I also make little red wizard tokens, so when you're making a good planeswalker, especially for commander, protecting yourself is quite important. So you want to be able to create a token that can maybe defend you from ne'er-do-wells, ne'er-do-wellers, I don't know, from ne'er-do-wells on the opposing teams. And our tokens here happen to be wizards, very on points, and we also create mana to cast other planeswalker spells. I'm Commodore Guff, and I want to be casting the coolest and most powerful and the most heavily costed planeswalker spells I could find. So being able to use my wizards to cast more planeswalkers and then make them strong with the loyalty is kind of my forte. My last ability here, I love drawing cards. I don't know if you love drawing cards or not.
I love drawing cards. It's all I like doing in a game of Magic.
Yeah, drawing cards is one of my favorite things to do, and I also love defeating my opponents. So my -3 here draws cards for every.
Stiamo parlando appunto delle abilità del comandante. Dice che è molto forte perché comunque col +1 facciamo questo maghetto che ci aiuta a castare Planeswalker. Certo che a mana rosso, quando magari, non so, per lanciare i Planeswalker a costo blu o a costo bianco, ti serve, cioè ti tocca usarlo come mana incolore, ecco. Almeno 3 dice che peschi X carte e lui infligge danni a ogni avversario, dove X è il numero di Planeswalker che controlli.
Obviously, you're in charge. Why wouldn't you be? It's your
yeah.
deck. It's your deck.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you do have a second in command, though, for this deck.
Oh, I love this little guy.
So this is Leori, Spark Touch Hunter.
Yeah.
For a blue, a red, and a white. Get a legendary creature.
Allora, Leori, Spark Touch Hunter. Volare cautela. Quando lui infligge danno da combattimento a un giocatore, scegli un tipo di Planeswalker. Fino alla fine del turno, quando attivi un'abilità di un Planeswalker di quel tipo, copi quell'abilità. Puoi scegliere nuovi bersagli per le copie.
What is this card trying to do?
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw that Luca kid hanging out with one of these things.
Oh, yeah.
On Ikoria, and I just had to have one. So I brought Leori into my deck. So where Commodore Guff as the face commander is more of this generalist planeswalker commander. Leori is trying to inspire you to build maybe a new deck, maybe not with Commodore Guff. This is one for the fans, one for the homies. So the idea here is that maybe you can take Leori and you can build all Gideons, or all Jaces, or all Chandras, or one of those new little punk teen planeswalkers running around. Not from my era. I'm Commodore Guff, remember? And you can play Leori a little cheaper. You're playing into a deck that maybe has multiple of a single planeswalker type, and you're able to use those abilities again. So I think there's a lot of cool decks to be made with this guy, and I just think he's so cute. What do you think, Blake?
He's adorable. Chat's already excited about Chandra Tribal.
Oh yeah. Chandra Tribal is one of my favorites. One of my favorite planeswalker types to build a deck full of is Chandra. So much fire, I love it.
And we're actually going to see a new Chandra later. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. But first, I want to talk about a card that speaks to a part of your life, something you alluded to at the beginning. So let's start by taking a look at Guff Rewrites History. You look happy there?
I look like I'm having fun, Blake.
Guff riscrive la storia. 2 rosso istantaneo. Per ogni giocatore scegli un non incantesimo bersaglio, non incantesimo, non terra permanente controllato da quell'avversario. Quel permanente, il proprietario di quel permanente lo rimescola nel suo grimorio. Ogni giocatore che controlla uno o uno di questi permanenti, una di queste carte permanenti esiliate dalla cima del grimorio. No, ogni giocatore che ha controllato uno di questi permanenti esiliati, uno di questi permanenti esilia carte dalla cima del grimorio finché non esilia una carta non terra. Mette il resto delle carte in fondo al suo grimorio in un ordine a caso, ecco. Ogni Planeswalker, dopo non ho letto perché l'ho tolto.
We won instead. How novel. I love winning. So that's how it all happened, I
So
think.
you just rewrote it.
Yeah.
You're just like, nah, this didn't happen.
I rewrote it. I rewrite everything. I rewrote that story.
You rewrote this deck?
Yeah. Where do you think Corey Bowen is today?
I have no idea. We are actually wondering about that. We're kind of worried.
I rewrote the call sheet.
Okay, so talk more about this card. And for instance, I have
Ecco, sì,
why
bene,
target
bene.
Yes,
non-enchantment?
well, actually, it's Commodore.
Poi mette il resto, sì, abbiamo già letto. Ogni giocatore può lanciare la carta non terra che è stata esiliata senza pagare il suo costo di mana.
Enchantment removal is a red weakness. We don't want the strength of this to be to remove a bunch of enchantments. That being said, there's obviously a lot of other cool stuff going on here. It's an instance, which is quite strong for Chaos Warp. It's the same rate as Chaos Warp, but you just get to Chaos Warp every
Everyone.
player.
Yeah.
It doesn't hit lands, so you can't turn 3, hit everyone's lands, and have a wacky time. You gotta hit real things. Real things gotta be rewritten, guys. I respect lands, and I respect enchantments.
Your
Look at-
ley lines. You need the ley lines, you need the connections.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need wild research. So the one other card I was on that likes enchantments and is an enchantment. So I respect enchantments. Let's
Yeah.
say that's the reason. I do not like the color pie. Let's make that canon.
Okay.
Or whatever.
All right, let's take a look at the next card. So this next card, I'm surprised you included it in the deck because these are some of those young whippersnappers that you were talking about that came after you. So this is the Gatewatch Beacon. So for 2 and a white, you get an artifact when Gatewatch Beacon enters the battlefield, or Gatewatch Beacon enters the battlefield with
L'artefatto quando entra nel campo di battaglia con 3 segnalini fedeltà su di esso. Tappi aggiunge bianco ogni qualvolta un Planeswalker entra nel campo di battaglia sotto il tuo controllo. Se questo artefatto ha dei segnalini fedeltà di sopra, può muovere un segnalino fedeltà da questa carta su quel Planeswalker.
Guys win, it's just my forte. And these guys, they do it in style. Like that Chandra Nissa taking out that big Eldrazi Titan in this storyline. That was cool. But this is a great mana rock for Planeswalkers. There's not many bespoke mana rocks for a Planeswalker deck. This is one that does a great job adding additional loyalty. It's also really cool to move a loyalty from this to a Planeswalker, and then you can keep proliferating another powerful mechanic for Planeswalker decks. You can proliferate the counters in Gatewatch Beacon to keep it going. So it's very cool, very fun.
Do we see, and I'm getting a little ahead of us here, but do we see any proliferate in this deck?
There will be among some of the reprints. Commodore Gov loves a good proliferator too. So when I stole this deck away from Corey Bowen, the lead designer, and became the new lead designer, Commodore Gov, I certainly added a good dose of proliferate. I don't know what that buffoon was thinking. He didn't have an ounce of it.
We'll see some of that when we look at the full deck list. Next up, this is one of my favorite cards that you have put in the deck.
Oh yes, yes.
Because there's a little bit of lore behind it. So you know, as the story master, you'll have to tell us a bit about the Onaki Oathkeeper. Who are the Onaki? What's going on here?
Oh, the Onaki.
Naki che mantiene il giuramento, ecco. Creatura, spirito ogre, le creature non possono attaccare Planeswalker che controlli a meno che il suo controllore paghi 1 per ogni creatura che controlla che sta attaccando un Planeswalker che controlli. Ha 4 più 2 bianchi, esilia un Oathkeeper dal tuo cimitero, rimetti sul campo di battaglia dal tuo cimitero una carta Planeswalker bersaglio.
tomb, and also protectors of maybe a Planeswalker power, and their ability suite here flex that. Do you want to read the card out?
I do. I should have done that. 1 and a white for a 0/4 Ogre Spirit. Creatures can't attack Planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 for each creature they control that's attacking a Planeswalker you control, so it taxes all of your Planeswalker attacks. And then 4 and 2 white, exile Onaki Oathkeeper from your graveyard. Return target Planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
It does it all. It's a great unturn 2 to protect your walkers, and it's great later on when your walkers have lost their protection.
Yep, absolutely. This one's going to be protecting. I love Ghostly Prison is one of my favorite. Ghostly Prison, Propaganda, some of my favorite spells.
You are a monster.
I am a monster, that's true. Not all of those things protect Planeswalkers, though. So
when building this deck, I had certainly felt that burn, Blake. That's why I made this card, to give us a little love, you know?
You gotta have some. Speaking of Planeswalkers to protect and the young whippersnappers, it looks like you brought us a new Teo.
Oh, I love Teo.
This one called Geometric Tactician.
Teo.
For 2 and a white,
Teo.
you get a legendary Planeswalker Teo.
2 white, quando Teo entra nel campo di battaglia crea un muro, una creatura muro bianca 0/4 con difensore volare. +1, tu e un avversario bersaglio, entrambi pescate una carta. -2, scegli sinistra o destra. Fino al tuo prossimo turno, ogni giocatore può attaccare solo l'avversario vicino nella direzione scelta e può attaccare anche i Planeswalker controllati da quell'avversario.
What happens to these guys? And he's putting up these walls, he's helping people out. It's sweet. So Teo generally is a Planeswalker. It's great to have Planeswalkers in your Planeswalkers deck, but this one's really oriented on controlling the flow of combat, creating a defensive wall, making some allies maybe to kind of coerce someone to not attack you, and then you can -2 to force someone to not attack you depending on the flow of combat. So he's really doing it all. I actually think this card is a lot of fun to play, particularly with Commodore Goth.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up, speaking of a lot of fun to play with, Teo is going to be a lot of fun with this next card, Spark Shaper Visionary. All the Planeswalkers.
Spark Shaper Visionari. Creatura mago umano, all'inizio del combattimento del nostro turno scegli un qualsiasi numero di Planeswalker bersaglio che controlli. Fino alla fine del turno diventano delle creature blu, uccello 3/3 con volare e antimalocchio, e ogni qualvolta questa creatura infligge danno a un giocatore profetizza 1. Non sono più Planeswalker, ma le abilità attivate di fedeltà possono essere attivate.
Felt very funny to do for one, but it also is can make your 5/4 Planeswalkers whatever attack your opponents. You get some scrying, you get hexproof, so they're not really vulnerable to instant speed removal spells during their stint as a bird.
Yeah.
So a big fan of this card, very wacky, very cool. And then you can scry one a ton before you minus whatever guff and draw a bunch of cards. That's me.
That's you.
Yeah.
You're the one heading this deck. All right. Next up, so one of the cool things you did in this deck is there is a Planeswalker who some of us know from back in the day from some games. Some games like Magic the Gathering.
A game or two.
But a very specific game, we met this next character, Vronos, Masked Inquisitor. So never had a card before, but we've met this character.
Vronos, Inquisitore mascherato, Planeswalker leggendario Vronos. +1. Fino a 2 alteri Planeswalker bersaglio che controlli sfasano all'inizio della prossima sottofase finale. -2 per ogni avversario, fai tornare un permanente bersaglio non terra controllato da quel giocatore in mano a quel giocatore. -7 un artefatto bersaglio che controlli diventa un costrutto 9/9, creatura artefatto, e ha volare indistruttibile e questa creatura non può essere bloccata.
Victims of our friend Garrick when he was under a mad curse due to Liliana's doing. Maybe she shouldn't have gotten that chain veil in the first place. But it all worked out, I guess. Garrick's all good. But Vronos is...
not so good.
No, he's dead. He's pretty dead. He died at the end of that video game that we play. And he's got a cool suite of abilities. There's actually a little... designing Vronos, a planeswalker whose identity is that they have a mask from Esper, and they have been hunted. Kind of tricky. His +1 here is representing him running away from Garrick, or helping people run away from Garrick. He's phasing out planeswalkers, so you can activate your planeswalkers and then phase them out, making them unattackable until your next turn, beginning of the next end step. Yes, and then they phase out after they you can do it in any order you want. That's right. So you can +1 to phase target some planeswalkers. You can activate those planeswalkers even more if you wanted to, depending on if you have the Leori or the Chain Veil or different effects. You might want to order them differently. But they'll phase out and they will be unattackable until your next untap step, which is great protection.
Which planeswalkers are often pretty vulnerable in multiplayer games.
They're very vulnerable. Attacking is a big deal, and when you have 3 opponents worth of creatures to attack you, you need some defense. His -2 is some even more defense. Let's say there's some problematic permanents. It's pretty efficient to get rid of 3 things and still have a planeswalker standing on the board, or maybe an army of planeswalkers. When your permanents are taking up value of return, a very tempo-oriented ability can be quite powerful. Absolutely. His -7 is a nod to his artificing magic as implied by the Ethereum Mask. So it is also something that, as I said before, will contribute towards ending the game. If you get Vronos' ultimate off, you'll be able to make a giant construct artifact creature, or an artifact just a very powerful attacker, and that'll be able to pierce through your opponents and hopefully fell them quite quickly, so you can run away from Garrick this time.
All right. This time.
Still
too late for Vronos.
Well, we'll see if I could rewrite the history a little bit.
All right, let's move on to a planeswalker who's still alive and still a planeswalker. Chandra, Legacy of Fire. So 4 and a red with
Chandra, 4 rosso, creatura leggendaria Chandra. All'inizio della tua sottofase finale, Chandra infligge X danni a ogni avversario, dove X è il numero dei planeswalker che controlli. Interessante. +1, aggiungi rosso per ogni planeswalker che controlli. 0. Rimuovi un segnalino fedeltà da un qualsiasi numero di permanenti che controlli. Esilia altrettante carte dalla cima del tuo grimorio. Puoi giocarle questo turno.
That would really cater towards that gameplay style. So if you have some Chandra deck out there with a billion Chandras or whatever, and this is a perfect fit. You can make mana, you can keep dealing damage. Your mana is great because you can cast more Chandras. You can remove a bunch of loyalty to draw more cards if you're missing them. You can even, look at this, you can remove a loyalty counter from the Gatewatch beacon, the mana rock from earlier, if you wanted to get an extra card available this turn. She really does it all, Blake.
She really does.
And look, there's some friends in the background.
She doesn't bring her friends back. That's up to you. Again, had some calls in chat for you to bring back a Johnny.
Oh well, I'm retired, guys. I'm a game designer now.
Game designer.
Game designer, Commodore Guff. Someone put that on the wiki.
All right. Our last original new card is Jaya's Phoenix. So for 4 and a red, and you can see the extended version on the right, you get
Allora, 4 rosso, creatura fenice, volare rapidità. Quando la fenice di Jaya infligge danno a un giocatore o a un planeswalker, coppia la prossima abilità di fedeltà che attivi in questo turno. Quando l'attivi puoi scegliere nuovi bersagli per la coppia. Ogni qualvolta lanci una spell planeswalker, puoi far tornare la fenice di Jaya dal tuo cimitero sul campo di battaglia.
Which is great. It's her Phoenix. Let's say I got it from her or something. Words. So
Jaya's not using it anymore.
we've done a lot of Planeswalker synergy so far. We've added loyalty counters. We've let you activate abilities more often. We've gotten good Planeswalker access. We've made them into creatures. Well, here's the card. Obviously, we had to copy Planeswalker loyalty abilities.
Obviously.
It's so cool to build up your Planeswalker ultimate and then, bam, you're doing it twice. You know, that's awesome. So we have that for Jaya's Phoenix here. Also, it comes back when you cast a Planeswalker spell. For those who are squinting and scrutinizing their mana cost a little bit, I don't see a mana cost. I'm discarding this fellow, and I'm casting myself and bringing it back immediately. That seems obvious to me.
That's where chat jumped. Yep, Jaya, you can cast Jaya's Phoenix for 5 mana.
Oh, you can cast it.
Or Dak Faden, another rest in peace, could discard it.
Oh, yeah.
Dak Faden would be a good addition.
Dak Faden, one of my favorite discarders of all time.
Mine too. All right, so that does it for the new preview cards. Now we are going to talk about the full deck list as well. We're going to show off the list. We'll talk about the inclusions, some of the cool reprints, that sort of stuff. After we do that, we are going to move into the Q&A section at the bottom, as you can see. So if you have questions for Commodore Guff, feel free to put them in chat, and it helps me if you tag @Magic, just for me to pick them out.
And to be clear, I've subsumed all of Corey Bowen's power, so any questions about the Commander Masters, Commander pre-constructed decks, I can answer. Maybe.
Great.
Any questions Blake finds answerable.
All right, let's get started with the full deck list before we jump into questions.
Oh.
So, here is the deck list sorted by card type. Let's call out a few cool things in here. There's a number of Narsets, both creature and Planeswalker versions, of course. Spark Double, when you're talking about increasing loyalty numbers.
Abbiamo il Commodore, sì. Planeswalker abbiamo una Jani, 3 Chandre, Awakening d'Inferno, quindi quella forte, Legacy of Fire, che è quella che abbiamo visto, Torch of Defiance, Elspeth, Grand Champion, forte, Gideon Jura, Jace, diverse versioni, Nairi, Narset of the Ancient Way, sì, quella nuova, la Narset blu, Saili, quella che spedina di War of the Spark, Sarkhan Mono Red, Teio che abbiamo visto nella live, la Wanderer che adesso non mi ricordo se è quella sempre di War of the Spark o quella di quella di Kamigawa. Kronos, creature, carta verso, Deep Scale, Flux Channel, Fog Bank, Phoenix, Kazu. C'è veramente di tutto. Sì. C'è Spark Double per fare coppia di Planeswalker, Spark Ship per Visionary, non so cosa sia. Hummingbird che quando fa danno prolifera, Wall of Tenial, è quello che secondo me stappa, le creature non stappano, cose del genere. Gouffred White History, quella che abbiamo visto prima, PTE, Semester End, Spada Spighe, Atto Blasfemo, Deploy the Gatewatch e Giuramento dei Guardiani. Promessa di loyalty, sì. Repeater Reverberation, Urza Ruinous Blast, la vratta bianca che esilia tutto ciò che non è leggendario. Signet, Arcane Signet, Azorius, Boros, Belware Stone, Gatewatch Beacon l'abbiamo visto prima. Honor, Worn, Shaku, cosa sia, forse è quella di prima, non so se abbiamo vista. Izzet Cyan, Vratta, Neveral Disc, Nars Annex, sì, è quello, prigione spettrale, cui devi pagare vita però. Soaring, talismano di Conviction, Creativity e Progress. Sono 3 colori che bisogna vedere dopo nella lista. Il velo di catena, grande ristampa da Magic 2015 mi pare. Wayfarer's Bubble per andare a prendersi una terra. Giuramento di Gideon, che se non sbaglio spedina. Giuramento di Jace, che non mi ricordo cosa faccia. Sembra che faccia pescare e scartare. Giuramento di Teferi fa fare 2 volte la fedeltà dei Planeswalker. Poi c'è Cascade Bluff, le solite penso terre comunissime. Torre di comando, frutteto esotico, Forge of Heroes, da vederlo, Frostball Snare, Hurricane Snare, sono le carte sì, di Strixhaven. Interplanal Beacon è quello di guerra della scintilla che fa guadagnare un punto di vita per ogni volta che castiamo un Planeswalker, mi pare. Karn's Bastion per proliferare a 4. Mobilized District è una creatura che si anima, magari dopo la vediamo. Myriad Landscape, montagne, Mystic Gate che è Azorius, Mystic Monastery che è Sky, pianura, Port Town che è Azorius. Prairie Steam uguale, sempre Azorius. Torre del Reliquario, non abbiamo limite di carte in mano. Rugged Prairie, non lo so. Cry, Cloud Expanse. Va bene, dopo ce ne sono altre. Magari dopo, se volete, si possono andare a vedere. Domande?
I don't know what money is.
Next up, we have questions about when the final card image gallery is going to be shown for this set, and that will be on Friday. Let's see. Is this question's a little funny and tongue-in-cheek, but we'll ask it anyway because it's a Planeswalker deck. How many dice does this deck come with? 10? 20?
It's a bring your own dice deck. Go bring your own dice, or do what I do, just memorize all the loyalty in your head. Be a more powerful wizard.
Yep. Is my eye okay? It will be, but no. All right. Was there a reason not to include Planeswalkers like Teferi Temporal Archmage or spells to allow Planeswalkers to use loyalty abilities like Instants? So, Teferi Temporal Archmage allowed you to use Planeswalker abilities.
Parla del Teferi Blue del Commander 2014 mi pare, che c'è nel set. Come mai, ecco, diciamo, cioè, non ci sono altri Planeswalker, credo, sempre del set in questi mazzi Commander, o comunque qualcosa che va in istantaneo, una cosa del genere.
We ended up not putting any of that in the deck. To some degree, a lot of these like misses, there's a lot of Planeswalkers to choose from, and we put as many as we thought was going to be really fun and cool and dynamic in the Planeswalkers deck. But it's intentional that we're trying to invoke a feeling that you can go make this your very own. Like I stole this deck from Corey Bowen and made it Commodore Guff's signature Planeswalker deck, and I like to do everything on my own time. So there's not too many instances for my own stuff, but if you love making Planeswalkers activate every turn, go put that Planeswalker in your deck. That's sweet.
There was a question about the...
Comunque è più un mazzo da pimpare in altri modi, ecco, sicuramente c'è qualcosina, però merita un upgrade, sicuramente.
Tag at Magic. Let's see. So I can see the questions. Are you coming to MagicCon Barcelona, Blake? I am not. Are you going to MagicCon Barcelona?
I am. Commodore Guff, am going to MagicCon Barcelona. But I'm going to spend a lot of my time looking at pretty buildings in Spain.
Let's see. There are a lot of pretty buildings in Spain. Let's see. All right. Why do Guff's wizard tokens only make red mana instead of any color?
Ecco.
We have a lot of mana rocks to help fix your color. In some sense, adding red mana, honestly, shorter text that helps fit it on the little templating.
Yep.
And I love little fireball icons. So we didn't feel it was necessary for you to fix mana. The deck was, the mana rocks are doing enough. And I just think it's fun to have red wizards make red mana.
Fair enough. Are we likely to see more Vronos in the future in supplemental sets?
Allora, la prima è che appunto si sono lamentati del fatto che insomma il suo Planeswalker faccia solo mana rosso. Però l'hanno pensato per pompare un po' di più i mazzi che hanno bisogno di Planeswalker rossi e quindi di pagare quel costo, ecco.
All right, why not include more Planeswalkers that can also be your commander?
There's not a lot of
Perché non incorporare altri Planeswalker che potrebbero essere comandanti?
two commanders for the new cards among the decks, but we don't want to make too many cards that are hitting the same notes. So I don't want two planeswalkers that are both Jeskai to be your commander. As far as remakes go,
Ho scelto solo due Planeswalker che potevano essere, diciamo, comandanti, ecco.
the fact that it can be your commander isn't a draw. They have to really function in the deck. But again, among new cards, we're looking to make two commanders that fit that can be your commander. I think the three planeswalkers, the monocolor planeswalkers we made that can't be your commander, there's a good question of why can't those be your commander. Mostly we designed those to be fun 99 pieces.
Yeah.
And when you're designing cards, sorry, I'm getting into a different voice. Let me get back to my Commodore Guff. When you're designing cards to be the face of a commander, a lot more thought has to go into it, and these abilities can't be too repetitive or don't want to do certain effects, and it becomes a lot harder. So to some extent, we wanted to keep the Chandra, Teo, and Vronos as cards that were good in 99s across other decks, rather than burden them by being commanders or oriented towards commanders. So we kept with just Guff makes a lot of sense. Let's do a creature that supports planeswalkers as a secondary. Let's focus the rest of the cards as pieces of the 99 and try to make Guff our cool generalist planeswalker commander.
All right. This might be a question for producer Sean. We'll see if he can work some magic. What do Guff's wizard tokens look like, and Teo's wall token look like? We'll see. He'll let me know if he can pull that off.
They're pretty.
Yep. All right. Why not reprint Pramicon Sky Rampart for additional protection?
Yeah, we thought about Pramicon. Certainly, I like to do like some reprint that can lead the deck in some of my decks. And here we have the Jeskai Narset creature commander that does a good job in Planeswalker decks. There's a certain extent of too much pillow forts. I like Teo doing kind of the Pramicon thing where you're spending a resource to stop people from attacking. But too much Pramicon, too much of the effect wasn't as satisfying. So we ended up sticking with Teo in this particular time.
Ha chiesto come mai Pramicon non è stato incluso in questo mazzo e lui ha risposto che c'è già Teio che fa un 40, ecco, e sarebbe stato già un po' più difficile metterne altri, ecco.
That we removed for a myriad of reasons. Planeswalkers are very fickle creatures. Some of them just didn't want to stick around after the regime shift.
Oh, because of Corey?
Yeah.
Do you remember any one example of a Planeswalker that got cut?
Any one example? I mean, I remember we tried Mono Blue Teferi, but I don't have any other specific examples. A lot of it was a lot of scratch work, iteration, putting stuff in, taking stuff out based off of different opinions. Kind of a storm of which Planeswalkers we wanted in, what's the density of Planeswalkers we wanted in. The Planeswalker deck, building it is quite tough, particularly for precons, because the precons need this very specific, mild, kind of average set environment, and Planeswalker decks where you have a ton of Planeswalkers tend to be very hit or miss on how functional they are. And we wanted to make sure the average experience was going to be functional enough to satisfy people, and we wanted, again, give enough space for people to customize into their own favorite Planeswalkers.
I'm going to read this question because it's become copy pasta, and I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring them, but then I'll answer it. What makes this a premium deck? Well, I'll answer it with a question because it's confusing me a little bit. What makes this a premium deck? Why isn't there more love for the mana bases in these precons? This isn't a question about cost. This is a question about justification of calling something premium without premium contents. Can someone in chat flag to me where we've called this premium? We might have. I just honestly don't know about that tag. Let's see. What happened to Guff's voice?
I forget things sometimes.
Here's a good question, though. How come you didn't include some of the other 9 Titans along with Guff? It was the perfect place.
It was the perfect place for more Titans. To be honest, within the building, there's a coalition of Guff supporters as well as vehement Guff deniers. I think among the 9 Titans, I obviously have the greatest reputation because of some antics I've done in the past, and some such and such there. Because of my great PR, there was really a reason to push for obviously me taking over and printing myself in this deck. It made sense. We thought the art would be good. We think the character design is good. Beau Lavar just does not hold a candle to me. Some people may have even heard of Commodore Guff, a little bit of a legend around the table talk, but not many people hear of Beau Lavar and the other weirdos. So really, we wanted to do one good, strong, nostalgic nod to myself, Commodore Guff. Obviously, I'm the coolest one. But didn't want to lean too much in that nostalgia angle and wanted to make sure we keep stuff fresh while having Commodore Guff be the cool, nostalgic thing. Me, Commodore Guff,
sense.
with my falling beard. Do not worry about it.
All right, chat has responded to my question, to their question, saying that the price is what makes it premium, except the question was, this is not a question about price, this is a question about calling it premium. So you can't say the question is not about price and then say that you're just trying to sneak in a question about price. Again, not a bad question. Don't hate the question. Corey doesn't set the price. Neither does Commodore Guff. So we don't really have that answer for you because that's not the guest for today.
Right.
So I appreciate the question, but you're trying to sneak in a question that I already said we can't answer. Okay, we have the tokens. Let's show the tokens.
Eccoli.
There is the flying defending wall and the wizard token.
It's a sick wizard token.
Molto belli.
Yes, I have many wizards, but she's my favorite employee, so she got depicted.
All right. Let's see what other questions we can have. When will the list for Commander Masters get released? I'm not sure on that date exactly. Let's see. Can you get the new Commander cards in set boosters or just collectors? You can get them in set boosters, I believe, but be sure to check out Collecting Commander Masters, that article. That details where everything can be found, in what packs, in what versions, all that sort of thing. All right, question about Leori. Is Leori supposed to be Luca's bonded monster from Ikoria?
A lot of times when we're designing cards, we have an intention, and we send that off, and that goes off to creative designers. I don't know specifically whether Leori is meant or has ended up depicting Luca's specific cat dubbed Wing Cat, but certainly in early design, the playtest name was Wing Cat, which is the name I knew Luca's fallen companion as. So it is certainly a nod to Luca's fallen companion. We were looking for an interesting character that was a support for Planeswalker in a certain sense. So we thought that would be a cool angle to do so.
Okay. All right. Here is a question about the mana base that I think we can answer.
Okay.
What was the philosophy behind constructing the mana bases for the precons generally?
Yeah, we have kind of set. We have a pattern of different mana bases we do. Different commander set leads, precon leads, will do different mana bases. In general, we have some people who like to think about mana bases, some people who don't like to think about mana bases. And a lot of my strategy is to ask someone who likes to think about mana bases what makes the most sense. And then we have more feedback from from different angles and stuff. So a lot of it is making sure that it's functional. We want to make sure we're getting rid of unnecessary tap lands that aren't adding too much towards the fixing of the deck itself. And we want to make sure that when we're spreading out the certain coolness of the cards in the decks. We're making sure that the coolest cards are not the lands particularly, but the stuff that you're casting that are in the deck itself,
Yeah.
and outside the land base. So the land base is it's more of like it's there for support, and again for precons, so much of the fun of a precon is getting one and then adding it to it yourself. And I think the mana bases have room to grow, and that's actually a good thing in a lot of ways.
All right. I've seen this question a couple times. You may or may not know the answer to this. But does Teo's card imply that Teo is still sparked after the more recent events from the Planeswalker?
I would not treat any card from this Commander Masters precon set as canon.
Okay.
We saw a Dreadhorde Sliver yesterday. That is not particularly canon. I would not treat anything here as though it was new story content. This is all kind of what if Goofy Realm. Goof Realm, that's where we're at.
Will we be able to get foil versions of the Planeswalkers in this deck in any other products? So I believe, you get a foil version of you. And then I don't think any of the other ones come in foil, but I could be wrong about some of the new ones. Some of the new ones in the collector boosters might come in foil. But check out the collecting Commander Masters article should have that information in it, and it's going to be more accurate than I am. Let's see. These cards are not coming to Arena. Let's see.
Una carta finirà su Arena. Questo un po' si sa.
Answer. Do you know which cards, if any, in the deck have new art? I don't want to say none of them do, but like you said, a lot of you guys have a set number of pieces of new art, and you used a lot of them in the Sliver deck, correct?
Yeah, we have a budget for new arts, and we really wanted to update the Slivers from their whatever era. M14 something era, back into the classic era that we started seeing again with Modern Horizons 1. So we used a lot of our budget there and maybe on a few other cards. So there's not a ton of hits in the Planeswalkers deck.
All right. Let's see.
Quindi hanno un budget da poter utilizzare per rifare le art delle carte. È per quello che alcune vengono rifatte e altre no.
Interesting question. I don't know that we have an answer to this, but it's an interesting thought. I think this deck is dope. Is there any chance in the future for Commander upgrade bundles similar to precons? I don't know that's anything we've ever talked about, but it's an interesting idea.
We've not talked about it. Certainly, with every kind of product shape, if there's demand, we should find it.
Yep. Let's see. All right, here's a good question. What motivated these colors for Guff?
Yes. For Guff specifically, I want to make sure I get the card right. It's Wild Research is the card.
Yep.
So Commodore Guff, very basically, is blue, is red. It's a powerful wizard, I think. Makes him blue. Like, by default, Commodore Guff makes sense to blue. He's the keeper of a light. Sorry. Hold on. I am Commodore Guff, and I remember this the whole time.
Sometimes you slip into third person because it's a better narrative voice.
Oh, yes, a better narrative. I love blue mana. I love reading. I love knowledge. And I love red mana because I love being a little chaotic guy sometimes. I love rewriting stuff. I do stuff kind of on a whim. I'm a kind of a fourth wall breaking kind of guy like that. White mana is kind of the odd duck out, but I think it fits quite well. I'm doing everything for the good of the universe, after all. I did stop the Phyrexian invasion, after all. I deserve to be called a hero. I'm certainly one of them. And also, in my card, Wild Research, I'm depicted as one. I also believe, I may get this wrong, Planeswalker's Mirth. Is that another card I'm depicted on that happens to be a white enchantment?
Maybe.
Planeswalker's Mirth, I think, no, because it's Wild Research has me all frenzified, and there's like Bolivar in the background. And Planeswalker's Mirth, I believe, discards some card for life or something like that.
Producer Sean says yes.
Great. That's because I know my stuff, and I'm a good game designer / wizard.
All right.
But those are the main things. I think like Commodore Guff's not very green, and I'll say this mostly because he's decided to rewrite the natural order instead of accept it. And he's not very black, because what would make him black? He's not very evil, he's not very selfish, not ambitious. He's just a kooky wizard and a cool librarian, and he wants to cast spells and rewrite history to his own doing.
Ooh, here's a good question. Do you think there's some little bit, I know you talked about the color pie with Guff rewrites history earlier, but do you think there's a little bit of flavor miss that it can't affect sagas?
Can't affect sagas. Yeah, that's definitely a flavor miss. It totally should have been or saga. But it's just too much text. If you saw that card as text already, we have to take compromises in certain places, but that would be really funny if it could hit sagas. And it can't even hit Urza's saga. What a shame.
It's a land. All right. I think we are good there. So coming up, a few things to flag. First of all, thank you, Commodore, for stepping in for Corey, who was lazy and couldn't be bothered to show up.
What a fool he is.
Yeah. The next week, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, we are going to be opening a product. I'm going to actually be doing it streaming from home. And we'll be opening Commander Master's product. So we'll kind of walk through.
Prossima settimana apriranno direttamente in live, ma noi non interesserà.
We'll talk through the different slots. We'll talk through that collecting article that I referenced. And then I want to flag that we have a bunch of stuff coming up with a ton of announcements, a ton of news. We're piling stuff into conventions over the next 3 weeks. So San Diego Comic-Con is coming up. Gavin Verhey and Mark Rosewater both have panels. Thursday is Gavin's panel, and then Saturday is Mark Rosewater's panel. And both of those are going to have news and information and surprises and possibly some preview cards or preview art or both or one or the other. The week after that, MagicCon Barcelona, of course, is going to have our preview panel. There will definitely be previews there. So Mark Rosewater and Gavin are going to be both at that as well.
Cool cats.
As well as a Video Cartagena. And they will be talking about upcoming sets. They'll be revealing some art. They'll be revealing some cards, talking about all that kind of stuff. As my eye leaks over here. And then we're going to be heading from there to Gen Con, where Magic started, and it happens to fall on our actual factual 30th anniversary, which is August 6th, 5th or 6th, I think. So the panel is on that Saturday, which I believe is August 6th. It is a 30th anniversary panel. Mark Rosewater's in that one as well as King Froelich and Ian Adams, and they are going to, and it'll be hosted by Jess Lanzillo. They will be talking about the future of Magic. So a lot of people ask, when is Wizards Presents this year? When is the big yearly announcement? Gen Con is it. So that panel is already full, but we will be releasing a video with all of that news immediately thereafter. And we are looking further into the future with that panel than we ever have before. Usually we go about a year ahead. We look at the next sort of year of sets. We're about 2.5 years out here. So ton of information in that Gen Con panel. So 3 weekends in a row. Don't forget that besides news and information at Barcelona, Barcelona is also going to host the Pro Tour The Lord of the Rings, which we are very excited about, as well as all the sort of cool MagicCon stuff that's happening there. There's going to be a party at MagicCon Barcelona featuring Wooden Wisdom, which has some folks you might know in it. Look them up. And yeah, so that's all the stuff that's coming up. Commander Masters, the full card image gallery is going to be out this Friday. And that's going to be followed the weekend after by preview events at WPN Premium Stores, followed the weekend after by the full release of Commander Masters. So thank you, Commodore Guff, for tuning in. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Guff out.
Bene, bene, bene.